Verse 67. All the world says that while my Tao is great, it yet appears to be inferior to other systems of teaching. Now it is just its greatness that makes it seem to be inferior. If it were like any other system, for long would its smallness have been known. But I have 3 precious things which I prize and hold fast. The first is gentleness. The second is economy. And the third is shrinking from taking precedence of others, or never being first in the world. Through love and gentleness, one has no fear. Through not doing too much, one has the amplitude of reserve power. Through not presuming to be the first in the world, one can develop one's talent and let it mature. If one forsakes love and fearlessness, forsakes restraint and reserve power, forsakes following behind and rushes in front, he is dead. Love and gentleness is sure to be victorious even in battle, and firmly to maintain its ground. Heaven will save its possessor by his very gentleness protecting him. Verse 68. The brave soldier is not violent. The good fighter does not lose his temper. The great conqueror does not fight on small issues. The good user of men places himself below others. Thus, we say, he ne'er contends, and therein is his might. Thus we say, men's wills he bends, that they with him unite. Thus we say, like heaven's his ends. No sage of old more bright. Verse 69. A master of the art of war has said, I do not dare to be the host to commence the war. I prefer to be the guest to act on the defensive. I do not dare to advance an inch. I prefer to retire a foot. This is called marshalling the ranks, where there are no ranks. Bearing the arms to fight, where there are no arms to bear. Grasping the weapon, where there is no weapon to grasp. Advancing against the enemy, where there is no enemy. There is no calamity greater than lightly engaging in war. To do that is near losing the gentleness which is so precious. Thus, it is that when opposing weapons are actually crossed, he who deplores the situation conquers. Verse 70. My words are easy to know and very easy to practice. But there is no one in the world who is able to know and able to practice them. There is an originating and all-comprehending principle in my words, and an authoritative law for the things which I enforce. It is because they do not know these that men do not know me. They who know me are few, and I am on that account the more to be prized. It is thus that the sage wears a poor garb of haircloth while he carries his signet of jade in his bosom. Verse 71. To know and yet think that we do not know is the highest attainment. Not to know and yet think that we do know is a disease. It is simply by being pained at the thought of having this disease that we are preserved from it. The sage has not the disease. He knows the pain that would be inseparable from it, and therefore he does not have it. Verse 72. When people have no fear of force, then, as is the common practice, great force descends upon them. Despise not their dwellings, dislike not their progeny. Because you do not dislike them, you will not be disliked yourself. Therefore the sage knows himself, but does not show himself, loves himself, but not exalt himself. Therefore he rejects the one, that is the force, and accepts the other, that is the gentility. Verse 73. He whose boldness appears in his daring to do wrong in defiance of the laws is put to death. He whose boldness appears in his not daring to do so lives on. Of these two cases, the one appears to be advantageous and the other to be injurious. But when heaven's anger smites a man, who the cause shall truly scan. On this account the sage feels a difficulty as to what to do in the former case. It is the way of heaven not to strive, and yet it skillfully overcomes; not to speak, and yet it is skillful in obtaining a reply; does not call, and yet men come to it of themselves; its demonstrations are quiet, and yet its plans are skillful and effective. The meshes of the net of heaven are large, far apart, but let nothing escape. Verse 74. The people are not afraid of death. Why threaten them with death? Supposing that the people are afraid of death, and we can seize and kill the unruly, who would dare to do so? Often it happens that the executioner is killed, and to take the place of the executioner is like handling the hatchet for the master carpenter. He who handles the hatchet for the master carpenter seldom escapes injury to his hands. Verse 75. The people suffer from famine because of the multitude of taxes consumed by their superiors. It is through this that they suffer famine. The people are difficult to govern because of the excessive agency of the superiors in governing them. It is through this that they are difficult to govern. The people make light of dying because of the greatness of their labors in seeking for the means of living. It is this which makes them think light of dying. Thus it is that to leave the subject of living altogether out of view is better than to set a high value on it.